big news.
I'm listening. What do you got?
Critics and parents agree. Paw Patrol, the mighty movie, is hilarious, action-packed, and fun for the whole family.
How do you like me now? That's what I'm talking about.
Paw Patrol, the mighty movie, rated PG, now streaming on Paramount+.
Hey, what's up? This is Eva from Eva Under Fire, and you're listening to my weekly mixtape with Brian Colburn. Stay rock stars.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. One of the things I like to do on this show is chat and curate mixes with some of the incredible artists whose music has been featured on countless mixtapes and playlists of mine. And the music from my guest this evening has been a mainstay of all of my hard rock playlists over the past year, and rightfully so, because this band is everything I love about hard rock music and then some. So please welcome my guest for this evening, the one and only Eva Marie, lead singer of Eva Under Fire. Eva, thank you so much for joining me tonight on My Weekly Mixtape.
Brian, that's so cool, man. Thank you so much. What a lovely intro. Now, hopefully all your listeners will be like, yeah, I got to check them out. Who are they?
Well, we're going to get into all that, but we're going to start with the same question I ask all of my guests. And I'll preface this by saying there are no wrong answers to this question. Eva, what does the word mixtape mean to you?
Oh, man. 1990s hip hop.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, man. Because we grew up downriver Michigan, right? We were very close to Detroit. And a lot of my friends all had mixtapes as kids, you know what I mean? But it was like the way that you would discover people too, right? And then like people would go like door to door with their own mixtapes, you know? So it's really, that's what I think about when I think of mixtape.
Definitely, definitely. Now, our topic for tonight's mixtape collaboration is hard rock cover songs. But first, before we get into that, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your band's album, Love, Drugs, and Misery, which was released this past September via Better Noise Music. After touring the summer of 2022 with Hailstorm, The Pretty Reckless, and The Warning, which, let me start by saying, as a father of two young ladies, it's amazing to see a stacked lineup of incredible female singers carrying the hard rock torch across the country.
Wow, much love. Thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. But using that summer jaunt to build up hype before the album's release and then finally releasing it this past September, how has the overall reception been thus far? Because you're still relatively early in the album cycle here.
Yeah, it was crazy to me because it was so unorthodox, the way that we released everything after pandemic world and crazy stuff. And so finally we get a chance to be on this awesome, finally getting a chance to be on these awesome stages with these, as you mentioned, high profile rock and roll women, man. It was a killer stage show for sure. And then finally releasing the album, I think a lot of people really, really were receptive to Blow, the single. It's got a hard rock edge, but it's also just, it's fun, And I think having Spencer on it probably didn't hurt, which was cool. But yeah, I'm finding it's a really cool response because there's so many varied opinions of why people love certain songs. And I love that they've chosen so many different ones. I think that's one thing on this album that I'm really proud of is it's got so many different sounds. And I almost feel like the audience just can't pick a favorite. They're just like so many of them are like different ones for different reasons. I think that's been really fun to see.
And that's a great problem to have, first off, that there's no deciding on one song that really resonates. My daughters are huge fans of the song Blow that you had mentioned earlier. And their reasoning for it is it's hard rock music that they both say you can dance to. And you really can. Because it's cool. Definitely a hard rock song, but it's got this groove to it where my 9-year-old is up and dancing. For me, I love it because it's kind of the meeting of the two worlds. Because a lot of younger kids are kind of, through their friends, just kind of indoctrinated into music by the pop music they hear on Top 40 radio. And as a hard rock fan myself, I like to let them listen to as much variety of music as possible. So when we find something that the two of us connect on, or the three of us connect on, it's special to me. And Eva Under Fire is one of those bands. So
Oh, so fun. Awesome. I love knowing that. That's cool, man. And the mini rockers are my favorite. They're the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed ones at the very front of the, we love the rock show. We love playing live. And so when I see these little kids that are out there, man, it's the coolest thing. And they have so much fun. And I love knowing that your kids can dance around to it, right? That's part of it for me. That's really cool.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, every kid you see in that audience in front of you on stage, that's a set of parents that are doing it right. Letting kids experience rock and roll music live, letting them experience the real deal. That is so important to me, and I love that.
Dude, it was, and let me tell you what, if you have music, listen up, musicians. If you have music out there that kids like, you're doing something right, because then kids are honest. They don't know how to lie to you. They will be brutally honest. I had some kid come up to me at a concert in New Jersey. She had a checklist, right? She had a rating, like a scoreboard of all of the bands that she has seen. And she would give us each a rating based on how well we performed live.
Wow.
She was like 10. It was awesome. I'm like, you never lose that spice, my friend. Never, ever lose that. That is awesome.
You definitely have a future Rolling Stone writer right there. And then being from New Jersey, that's my stomping ground. So I'm proud that the state is doing well for you then.
You guys are breeding music critics, man. And I'm happy to report I got a 10. I got a 10 out of 10.
All right. Rock and roll. Well, one of the things I find most fascinating about you personally, along with music, is that you're also a licensed therapist who's actively still treating clients.
Yeah, I'm not taking on any new clients because things are, getting busy. But I just still have a handful of clients, that I see via telehealth. And so it's been a really interesting to figure out how to blend the two worlds. But truthfully, so fulfilling and kind of like way more crossover than I ever thought there would be. So it's been really gratifying to see that.
Well, being a musician myself, as well as a podcaster, I know how much work goes into crafting whatever the art that you're working on may be it a song or a podcast interview, and then balancing that art with your family and a full-time job on top of that. There's that balance, which is really a lot of the struggle of doing it. And it's impressive that you're able to do both and be successful at both. So a hat tip to that. And something I wanted to bring up, listening to this album so much over the last few months, there are some lyrical themes that come across in the album that are extraordinarily deep, but they're handled with a care and compassion that really resonated with me as a listener. So without getting into obvious specifics, do the stories you hear as a therapist maybe help you craft songs, or do they ever work into your mindset from maybe a thematic standpoint?
I think in the sense that people experience maybe certain broad concepts like grief, like anger, right? Then that kind of like, I'm always focused on emotions that I feel like are relatable, but also I feel like my music is I guess it's kind of the inverse of what I do when I'm in the role of being a therapist. So when I see clients, it's about those clients and me trying to serve them living their best life. And then when I write and I sit with my music, that's kind of like my own personal journal and reflective more so of like my own journey with the stuff. It's like music is my therapy, and then I get to go be a therapist for other people. I think that's kind of how it works in my brain most of the time.
Let me tell you, that resonates with me so much because I have told people for years, without music, I am nothing. It is literally the glue that holds me together. And this podcast, I was doing a show prior to this, Playlist Wars, and we had to go on hiatus. And the few months that we weren't doing the show, my friends, my family, my wife, everyone pointed out, you're not yourself. And once I started back up podcasting again, they immediately said, you're back. And it's something where talking music with people and hearing the stories about songs, it just is a livelihood and something that I'm truly passionate about. And I'm glad to hear I'm not alone in that. That is really, really cool.
Oh, dude. Yeah, no, preach. Because truly, I think music should be the sixth love language. Like, right? Like, this is where people can feel heard and understood and like share emotion and talk and feel like they can truly connect with others through music. And that somehow music itself, right, in the lyricism, that you can feel like somebody, like you're not alone in that, like you just said. And I think that's the most powerful thing about it. I love that. So, and thank you for that. That's a high compliment to me that people would listen to my lyrics about my story and then be able to find themselves in that.
Oh, by all means. And look, I could go on for the entire hour about this, but we did promise the listeners that tonight we were talking about hard rock cover songs, so I don't want to let them down. And I'm sure listeners are just as curious as I am to hear your cover song picks. So anyone that knows me personally, or even just through this podcast, knows I'm a cover song fanatic. And I love dropping cover references whenever possible. So my cover songs playlist is well over 1,500 songs. So it's safe to say I have plenty to choose from tonight. And the hardest part will be which songs inevitably don't make the cut. So Eva, what were you looking for in some of the hard rock cover songs that you're bringing to the table this evening?
Most of the time it's a place and time for me with music, right? So a lot of the cover songs that I choose, I love hearing like a hard rock version of something that I've either grown up with or that was special to me for one reason or the other. So can I tell you this cover song that I have on my brain, right? You asked
Sure.
me what mixtape meant to me, and I said like 90s, early 2000s hip hop, right? And so my friend Jay from State of Mind and I got on a cover together and we did Survivor. So for me, it was like Destiny's Child has been my jam since I was a kid. And now I get to try to sing Beyonce. Come on, right? Like, and it was so fun for me because I grew up listening to more pop music. I'm a 90s kid. So I started trying to emulate vocalists like Christina Aguilera and Alicia Keys, and Destiny's Child was one of them. And so it was really cool for me to be like, my buddy calling me up, hey, you know that soulful thing your voice does? Can you do that on a cover song with me? I was like,
I need
sure.
that. I need that. And I'll be honest, that is actually one of the songs on my list for tonight. And we'll see if we get it in because I think that song is absolutely fantastic. It was a cover song when I first heard it. I immediately said, how the hell did this not happen sooner? Like a hard rock version of Survivor. I don't know what took so long. And you guys really rocked it. I absolutely love because that song is a powerful song in the pop sense. But when you add those guitars, it becomes crushing. And I absolutely love that version. So maybe spoiling a cut of mine early in the night, but let's get down to business. Tonight, as I mentioned, Eva and I are going to be curating a hard rock cover songs mixtape, and we're going to go back to the 90s and use that old cassette deck approach, meaning our mixtape is going to be broken up into two sides, side A and side B. Eva, as my special guest, will begin side A with her first song choice, and then I'll add a song that I feel best follows it up. We'll then flip-flop choosing songs until we've mapped out the 10 songs for side A. We'll then give that mixtape a proverbial flip, and we'll map out side B, only this time I'll kick the side off, and Eva gets to follow up. Our overall goal for this episode is to craft the best hard rock cover song mixtape possible through only 20 songs. At the end of the show, you could take our conversation to the next level by visiting the Hard Rock Cover Songs page at myweeklymixtape.com, and you can give our final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. And if you like what you're hearing on My Weekly Mixtape, please consider becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. And I'd like to welcome the newest member of the Patreon Mixtaper family, Ann C. Ann, thank you so much for supporting the show. Now, before I turn it over to Eva to reveal track one, some of the fellow mixtapers who follow me at My Weekly Mixtape on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok have chimed in with their ideal opening track for a hard rock cover songs mixtape. So I'm going to throw a few of these out, Eva, just to give us some food for thought.
Perfect.
Russell Y chimed in with Greta Van Fleet's cover of Adele's Rolling in the Deep. Jason Whistle chimed in with In This Moment's cover of Blondie's Call Me. Rob Jones chimed in with Framing Hanley's cover of Lil Wayne's Lollipop. Seeker 11 chimed in with Metallica's cover of Queen's Stone Cold Crazy. Hutchie chimed in with Anthrax's cover of Kansas's Carry On Wayward Son. And Sunshine Suze chimed in with Disturbed's cover of Simon and Garfunkel's The Sound of Silence. That's just scratching the surface of hard rock cover tunes. So Eva, with that, I'm officially pressing the record button on our mixtape, and the floor is yours. Why don't you dive into the song you chose to kick off side A and let us know why you chose it?
Oh man. You know what though? Okay, so I'm gonna stick with the very first cover song that I mentioned. Here's why. Because after hearing all of your listeners chiming in with all these really awesome covers, there were some really cool hard rock covers of pop songs on there. And I think that we could really do some damage here with State of Mind featuring Eva Under Fire covering Destiny's Child Survivor.
That is a great, great cover. I love the vibe that you bring to it. And again, you're taking a pop song and making it heavy. So following that up, I think I'm going to stay in your lane right now. And I'm going to go
Okay.
I'm going to go with a pop song that was reimagined to follow that up. And I'll be perfectly honest, my kids are massive fans of this band, and I am a fan because I see the joy it brings them. I do like a lot of their songs, but this cover version is what sent me over the top. And I play this version for them all the time, and it helps bridge that pop rock gap between them and myself. And the original is Imagine Dragons' Radioactive, but I'm going to go with Bullet for My Valentine's cover from 2018's deluxe edition of Gravity.
Wow. I forgot they covered that one. Holy smokes. Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah, and they add just enough heft to it, and it keeps the original pacing and the original vibe of the song, but it's just enough heft and just enough screaming in the specific parts of the song where it makes it heavier. And the original for a pop song is heavy.
Yeah, for sure.
But Bullet for My Valentine's is heavier, and that's what I'm talking about.
It's got like a heavy music bed, right? Because the original, like Imagine Dragons, the singer has like a grit vocal, but it's over
Yes.
top of a pop bed, right?
Yes.
And I like what they've done with the cover is because they heavied up the actual like music bed to it. So you get that heavy guitar sound, which is sweet.
Right. So now I toss it back to you.
Oh boy. I gotta do the you know what I really liked your listener's suggestion of the Framing Hanley's cover of Lollipop. There was some hip hop with that first track on Survivor, right? With the Destiny's Child vibe. I'm gonna take song 3, Framing Hanley's Lollipop, because again, pop vocal, but almost like a rap vocal, right? But then with heavy guitar. So, and I mean, who doesn't love, a good mashup of rap rock, right? Isn't that why Linkin Park was a thing?
Of course. and let me tell you, that could have went in so many different directions, because sometimes rap rock hits and sometimes it falls flat, especially when it's a rock band trying to take a hip hop song and kind of flip it on its side. It could go in either direction, and Framing Hanley nailed that version. And that is not an easy thing to do. All right, so we're going to stay pop still, I think. I think I like where you're going with this. And one of the biggest songs of the last few years, since the pandemic at least, was The Weeknd's Blinding Lights. I mean, you think about the Super Bowl performance and everything else. The Weeknd is everywhere. However, Saint Asonia did an amazing cover as a digital single in 2021. And I'm going to put that in here because I'll be perfectly honest. The first time I heard their version and hearing Adam sing The Weeknd's vocals with the grit that he has in his voice, I'm like, this is another level. And I absolutely love that version. So I'm going to go with Saint Asonia's version of Blinding Lights.
Super cool. Super cool. I did not know. I'll have to check that one out. I have not heard that cover.
Oh, it is unbelievable. They rock the hell out of it. And the original is fun. And it's got that dance beat. And at parts of the song, they incorporate that while keeping the rock heavy. So they flipped it on its ear, but also maintained the vibe of the original and found a perfect balance to make it work.
Oh, wow. That sounds intriguing. I'm definitely going to have to check that out now. All right. So my turn. So now that I've said rap rock, I'm going to roll with From Ashes to New because I've seen them perform this live. They cover and do an amazing job with Linkin Park's Faith. So I think Faith is like one of those moments when I was a kid and I was first falling in love with rock music that was really like just anything Linkin Park touched, and like Hybrid Theory especially, but like even Meteora and afterwards. So like I've always had such a love for them. But I think that the way that From Ashes to New does that cover you can tell how passionate they were about Linkin Park as well, right? I just think that's the right way to pay homage to that sound, and it's the sound that they do so well.
I absolutely love it. I mean, Linkin Park is a special band to me because I actually saw them within several weeks of Hybrid Theory being released, and we saw them at a venue called the Birch Hill Nightclub. It was in Old Bridge, New Jersey, and there was maybe 1,000 people there. And the album had just come out. A year later, I see them with Metallica at Giant Stadium on the Summer Sanitarium tour, and I knew that ascension from the club to the stadium was only a matter of time after seeing them live once.
Wow. So cool.
Now, having From Ashes to New on this list, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, on your album, you do a song with them, Coming for Blood. Can you talk about how that collaboration came together?
Dude, it's insane, right? Matt killed that verse, by the way. So it was really, really cool. We had met almost forcibly, right? Because we were the new kids on the block at the label. And so like the Suits kind of were like, hey, we're going to toss you on a From Ashes to New song. And so I showed up on their set of their music video and went, hi, but then when we turned in our album and we were looking for features, we kind of reached back to that connection because Matt, when I performed on Every Second, he was like, we should have just done a new song. And so here I am with this new music. And I'm like, hey, Matt, remember that time you told me we should just collab on some new stuff? He was like, oh, dude. He actually like Facebook messaged me right after he wrote the lyric. He was like, what do you think about this? Like first shot, it was fire. It was absolutely like just hit the nail on the head and caught the vibe of that track so well. So yeah, that was really cool getting to work with them.
Well, I am going to follow that up then because From Ashes to New is a guest on your album. I'm going to follow up with another guest from your album and one of their cover songs that I'm a big fan of, and it stays in that pop realm because Faint for Linkin Park was still in that pop arena that we've been sitting in side A of this mix. So I don't want to stray too far from that. Okay. And that pop singer would be Adele with the song Someone Like You, which I absolutely love the original. But in 2013, when Ice Nine Kills did their hard rock cover of it, it blew my friggin' mind. And Spencer
really
is your guest on the song Blow, so we get to tie it all in this Eva Under Fire world. I don't know if you've ever heard this version, but they take the beauty of Adele's version and they add this level of heft, and Spencer could sing it and scream it. So he's kind of bounces between those vibes in the song, and it really, really works. It's one of the coolest ballad covers I've heard because they take it to a different place. So for one, I'm following up From Ashes to New's Faint with Ice Nine Kills, Someone Like You. And then I'm going to ask you, one, have you heard that version if you like it? And then two, working with Spencer on Blow, how did that come together and what was that like?
Yeah, there was a lot that was there that were just the Suits, right? So, but before I get to that, you asked me if I'd heard that cover. I have not heard that cover. However, I do know that Spencer is, as a vocalist, is like the best of both worlds, right? I mean, he's got range for days, and then he's got the most visceral scream ever, right? I mean, Rainy Day is like one of my favorite ever, right? Like that new album was like, what just happened? But in any case, he's also just a super cool guy. So fast forward to how we got to work together. We had turned in the album. The label wanted Blow as a single, and they were going to put that on the soundtrack for the movie that I was in called The Retaliators. Also, Spencer acted in the film. So they were just kind of like, hey, any chance you might want to hop on this track? And he loved the hook, but we had never actually met. This was like real early in the pandemic world kind of situation. So like only via email, and like his studio sent back the tracks after he had recorded them. And then like we recorded our version of the music video, but his had to be filmed on location where he was from. And we couldn't like hang out because pandemic was like, really super. It was really weird. Like I felt bad asking because I didn't get to build any rapport with him at all. You know what I mean? So it was very strange for me. But then the year after, so this was Welcome to Rockville 2021. And I am, it's the first time we're touring like ever. We just started touring that year. And I'm sitting on a park bench waiting for my friends. They just ran to the bathroom and somebody else ran to get like a catering card. So I'm chilling in the walkway area between where the rest of the festival was and artist dining. And so all of a sudden, coming down this, giant hallway thing is Spencer and crew. And I just sort of like caught an eye and like waved because I didn't know if he would even remember who I was. And he pointed at me and then came over just rocking out a cappella, was like, I'm about to blow. He starts singing the hook. Man, it was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, this dude's for real. I love it. I love it. He was like, that hook was so sweet. He was like, thank you for having me on the track. We got a picture. It was great. So, even if it's weird at first, people trust your gut instincts and sometimes it just works out.
Yeah, it really does. I love album opening tracks. That was one of the first episodes I did on my weekly mixtape. And for a modern album opener, I couldn't think of a better one in 2022 than Blow, because it just kicks the album off with such an intensity, and it's fun and it's exciting, and it really introduces you to the band in a way that you hear elements of Blow kind of weaving throughout the entire album as you listen through it. And I think that's the perfect kind of exclamation point to start the album off. So I love the fact that it kicks off your album because it is such a killer tune.
Oh, you rock. Dude, I'm so grateful that you're very analytical because we would have never thought of that. But now that you mention it, I'm like, he's got a point. You do see themes that are from this first track on the rest of it. That's cool.
Yes.
I
I'm the kind of guy, when I grew up, I had I guess, good fortune of having parents that listened to albums. So I started with vinyl, and I was always staring at the album cover. And then when I was old enough to read, I would start reading the song lyrics. And as you're listening to an album and reading the song lyrics, and then it got a little smaller on a cassette, you had the J cards you're folding out. And then CDs, I'd open the book. And to this day, I still do it, because reading the lyrics and hearing the songs, you start to see kind of the thought process of the entire album coming through this artist's writing. And you're reading it and hearing it. And it to me, the two kind of really connect. And I really feel that with this album, Blow really sets the tone for where the rest of the album's going to go. So,
Killer. Thank you for that.
Well, we're up to track 7 on side A, and you've got to follow up Adele's Someone Like You. Yes, it is.
Okay, it's me. All right. Let's do a new cover of, it's a hard rock cover, but it's a new cover of a pop song. Have you heard Kayla King cover Unholy?
No, I haven't. Oh my God.
You do. So Kayla King's new on the scene. She is like friends with similar music people that we're friends with in our little Southeast Michigan community here. So that's how we know each other.
Awesome.
And I tell you what, everybody now is like covering the same like pop songs that come out, right? So I feel like people that cover these brand new covers of like pop songs that are just releasing, you've got to really stand out to really like get ahead of the game, I guess. And her cover of Sam Smith's Unholy is absolute fire. And she's got a really cool, like, she sings and plays. So like you've got to see the music video too when you listen to this cover, because she just killed it. Like the whole thing is fire. So Kayla King.
I'm like, at this point now, I'm feeling shame that there's a cover song out there that I don't know. So I'm like excited. I almost want to be like, look, let's just pause this interview for a minute. I'm gonna go geek out over this. But I love it because I got a new cover song out of tonight. So that's so friggin' awesome. I'm so excited. Yeah. I can't say anything about it because I haven't heard it yet. So I'm just going to move along and say I'm going to follow up on a later episode about it because I'm very excited to hear it. But following it up, because I do know the original, I want to stay in this because we've got we're sticking Poppy on side A. And I'm going to go with a cover of a pop song where this song went viral. I saw the video on YouTube and I immediately said, these guys wrecked this cover. And that is a pun intended, because I am going with a cover of Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball. And this is from 2013, and the band is called Cry to the Blind. they kick it up like an 80s metal power ballad.
No
you
way.
know the original has that vibe. They took it to an extreme 80s hairband power ballad, but with the heft of modern hard rock. And they do such a killer job of it. So I am going to follow up Kayla King with Cry to the Blind's cover of Wrecking Ball.
That's wild. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's really cool. All right. So I guess it's me, right? This is track 10.
This is track 9. This is your last song on side A.
Okay. All right. Track 9. How are we going to go out here, guys? Yeah, there's so many good ones. There really are so many good ones. I wanted to save this one for the next side because I feel like that but I don't know what the next side's going with. Okay. So this might be a little off theme here, but Shinedown does an amazing Simple Man cover.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Love
And
it.
it's pretty and it's so Brent Smith could sing me the alphabet and it's fine. You know, his voice is so amazing. And I think maybe it doesn't stay with like the current pop theme that we've got going on Saturday, but it definitely is a rock song about like a pretty ballad. And like sometimes pop music can be, you know, I think it's got a lot of pop song elements when it comes to the melody of the song. And I think even the original, right? Because it stays pretty true to the original with the melody that it sings. But it's just Brent Smith's version is just amazing.
Yeah, when you see that live, my wife and I had the amazing opportunity back in 2019 before the world shut down. We had just driven up to New Hampshire to visit my in-laws, and we got there, and my father-in-law said, by the way, somebody was selling tickets to Shinedown tonight. It's only like 30 minutes from here. If you and Katie want to go to a show tonight, I'm like, sure, sign me up. So we went down the street and picked up the tickets, and they said 11th row center. So I'm like, this is amazing. We got there and it was 11th row, but rows 10 and up was all standing room only. So we were basically front row looking directly on the stage. And I welled up a couple times during the night. It was Shinedown, Bad Flower, and Dinosaur Pile Up. And I mean, you know, Bad Flower is an amazing group. I love their stuff. And, you know, when they did Ghost, that song really, and then The Jester, I was getting like goosebumps. And then Shinedown came out and the ballads, it's just such a powerful band. But when they did Simple Man, everyone had their cell phones and lighters up. It felt like it was the 1980s. And he nails the vocals with ease. And it's just such a powerful live moment, such a wonderful cover. The only problem I have is, how do you follow up a powerhouse vocalist like Brent and end a side on a high note? And there's only one song that I can think of that could follow up Simple Man, staying a little slower at the end of the side, but a voice that definitely rivals Brent in terms of the best male hard rock vocalist category, I would say. And I'm going to go back to 2007's Carry On, and I'm going to go with Chris Cornell's cover of Michael Jackson's Billie Jean.
Wow, that's a great cover. Holy smokes, I never thought about that. But I mean, yeah, Chris Cornell, exactly, right? Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, flipped the song on its ear and turned it into this heart-wrenching ballad when the original is this upbeat, happy. I mean, I used to sing that song when I was 3 and 4 years old, trying to do the moonwalk in my parents' living room. But hearing Chris's version, it's like, why do I want to cry listening to Billie Jean? And that's what it does. His was so good. I'll never forget this. In 2008, David Cook was on American Idol, and he covered Chris Cornell's version. And all the judges started praising David Cook for his original take on a Michael Jackson song. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs at the TV, Chris Cornell did it. Obviously, David Cook's a fantastic singer too, because he pulled off Chris Cornell's version so well.
Right. But you're like, that wasn't you.
Yeah. I mean, the creativity came in the arrangement that Chris brought to that pop song. And I love when a cover flips a song on its ear. So I'm going to close side A with Chris Cornell's cover of Billie Jean.
Beautiful. I mean, truly, it's like a remake. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's a different thing than like a cover. You know, sometimes you can transpose the guitar down half step, full step, whatever. But to completely reimagine a song like that is pretty amazing.
if you played both songs back to back, you would think you were listening to two different songs. And that's amazing.
Yep.
So, folks, there we have it. Side A of our Hard Rock Cover Songs mixtape, kicking things off with State of Mind, featuring Eva Under Fire, Survivor, Bullet for My Valentine's Radioactive, Framing Hanley's Lollipop, Saint Asonia's Blinding Lights, From Ashes to News Faint, Ice Nine Kills Someone Like You, Kayla King's Unholy, Cry to the Blind's Wrecking Ball, Shine Down Simple Man, and Chris Cornell's Billie Jean. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we're discussing tonight through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, Eva, before we flip this proverbial mixtape over to side B, I want to dip into some more Eva Under Fire tunes, if you don't mind. And in 2018, the band released a digital EP, Heavy on the Heart. And there was a track on there that I absolutely love, and it's called I Will Fight. And it was a song that I thought, honestly, would fit seamlessly into Love, Drugs, and Misery, but sadly didn't make the final track listing. I have to ask, was that song solely recorded for the EP? Was that something that the label and you guys decided at the end? Because as a fan, I'm a little surprised it's not on the final track, because it feels like it sits in that whole range of songs we've been talking about tonight.
I love that. Thank you for that. I Will Fight's one of my personal favorites also. And you're right. It was written for the EP. And that was actually before we found the label. And then they wanted us to go ahead and get it right back in the studio. You got an EP, but we want a full album, right? So it was kind of like a weird timing thing. And I think that was probably the only hang up. But, with the wonderful world of playlisting and technology now, it's like, people can access whatever, if anything, all of our releases and listen. So for me, it was a little bit less about, I guess it allowed for like another new song to be also like born onto the full length album version. And that one just got a chance to have its heyday on the Heavy on the Heart EP.
Awesome. And now I want to go back even further, and I want to touch on a couple of your earlier independent releases, 2016's War EP, as well as 2015's Anchors album. Are there songs from these albums that you still like to incorporate into headlining sets? Because as far as I'm concerned, songs like I Am Fame, Broken, and Gunsmoke, along with pretty much all of them, if I'm really being honest here, would fit in seamlessly into a live set. But I'm curious if any of those songs are still kind of remaining in your live sets now in your headlining shows.
Man, some of them, and it's really funny because none of the ones that you mentioned. But Gunsmoke, man, I haven't heard that one in a long time. Okay, so Betrayer sometimes will make it into the headlining sets. We do have an April 1st show coming up, which will headline a brand new venue near our hometown, which is, I cannot wait. I mean, I'm just so excited about new venue stuff because truly, especially after the pandemic, so many places closed and like we were all wondering where band going to play. And so in that set, we will be also including Anchors, which that was the one that people first started getting tattoos of. Like,
yeah,
I guess I didn't really realize that I needed that song. And so I wrote that song, but I didn't realize like the power that it would have at people and how much it would resonate. So that one's really cool. And lastly, Drift.
Nice.
Our very first love song. Yeah.
Very, very cool. All right, well, let's dive back into side B here, and I get to kick things off. So I'm not going to start off side B poppy. I'm going to start off side B with a cover of one of my favorite 80s songs. And you know what? One of my favorite songs of all time. So in order to pull this song off, you really needed to bring it. And Incubus brought it. And I'm not even going to say the song name. I'll just say one sentence, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to get through this thing called life from 2009's Monuments and Melodies compilation from the band. I'm going with their cover of Prince's Let's Go Crazy. Absolutely. If you don't, come on. Prince is one of those artists that if you're going to attempt to cover it, you better bring your A game because that song is embedded in people's musical DNA. And
yes,
Incubus really put together an amazing, faithful cover to the original. And I love it. And that is how I'm going to start off side B.
Wow. Covering icons. Okay. All right. Legends. All right. Okay. Yeah. We kick it off with a Prince cover. Whoa. All right. I'm going to risk it. I might stick my foot in my mouth. I think it's a really cool cover. Eva Under Fire covering Journey's Separate Ways.
All right. I have it on my list.
We let go big or go home with covers, right? And that's kind of what you said, like when you cover legends, you have to really like be confident in what you're bringing to the table, because many people are like, oh, those are the untouchables, right? And sometimes when people cover songs, the idea behind it might be, oh, well, take a less popular song and make it your own, right? And there have been several bands that have done that successfully. But we really wanted to intentionally cover something that people was gonna have mass appeal, right? So Journey.
I absolutely love it. It's my favorite all-time Journey song. It's not an easy track to pull off vocally, and the fact that you do it with such ease puts a huge smile on my face every time I hear it. And while, again, your version, like Incubus's, stays faithful to the original structure, the band does turn it up to 11 if you want to use the Spinal Tap reference, and you guys really make it your version of the song. So now,
thank you.
As a podcaster, I promise you, I am not TMZ. I am just a music nerd. And Journey's Frontiers album, which is what Separate Ways came from, is in its 40th anniversary. Mm-hmm. And on the date of its 40th anniversary, Daughtry released a cover as well of Separate Ways with Lizzie Hale.
With my girl, Lizzie Hale.
And you were performing that song on tour. I am friends with Dan, Casey, and Aaron at The Itch. I've listened to your interviews on their show, and I heard you talk about that Lizzie had said to you, if only I had the guts to come up on stage, I would have joined you for it. And then in January, she's doing it with Daughtry. I would just love to hear, obviously, I'm fans of both. I love both versions. I would love to hear what you think, because here's another cover.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so here's my take, right? Cover culture, right, is now a very popular thing.
Yes.
And so I go on TikTok and I see, right, I mentioned on side A, throwback side A, Kayla King's version of Unholy, but that was one of probably 30 in the same week that song came out. So I feel like it's a little strange, only because maybe this particular song covering Journey's Separate Ways is not like a new song that's coming out. It's not a new trend. However, we recorded it and released it just trying to expand our 80s cover rap. And I just so happen to have a vocal range that does that well. And then Stranger Things came out and used it in the opening for Stranger Things 4. And I was like, oh, missed opportunity. They should have used our cover, right? Like, wow, it was a licensing thing. We could have made it, right? But then because we've been performing it on tour, we get to open for Lizzie Hale. And she's like, oh my gosh, it's my go-to karaoke song. And so now, sidebar, Chris Daughtry, who has worked with Lizzie Hale millions of times and a million years ago, hears it on Stranger Things, got inspired, and wanted to cover it and feature his friend Lizzie. So this is everybody's world, right? So like, we all want to cover the same song? Fine. Do you know what else happened to me? I played it at a different festival in like June of 2021 when we were on tour with Buck Cherry, and we were also playing with our friends in Shallow Side, and they cover it too. And they covered it on the same show. I'm so pray for all.
That's fantastic. Look, honestly, as a cover song fan, like I told you, I have 1,500 on my playlist. I love hearing multiple versions of the same song. I actually have this thought in my mind of an episode that I want to do down the road on my weekly mixtape, which is just pick one song and have 20 different completely varied versions of one song for an episode and kind of show all the different artists' takes on a track. So I love it. I'm all for it. And like I said, in no way, shape, or form was I trying to be like TMZ there. I just love the fact that this song is one of my favorites as a child. seeing all this kind of resurgence because of its 40th anniversary and Stranger Things and everything else.
So good. I mean, if you want to know what I want to do with it, I would just love for myself and Hailstorm and Chris Dockery to all tour together, and we'll just go up and sing it all together. Why not?
Right? Oh, hell yeah. I'd love that. I'm front row for that one. Hell yeah. All right. So you mentioned, so here's the thing. We're only allowed to hit one band per episode because, rules and everything. So before I move on, I had another Eva Under Fire cover song on my list that I'm not going to be able to use now, but damn it, I'm not going to miss this opportunity to talk to you about it. And that is your cover of U2's With or Without. You know what? Screw it. It's my show. I could do what I want. I am following up Separate Ways, Worlds Apart with Eva Under Fire's cover of U2's With or Without You, because you know what? U2 is a massive band, and Prince and Journey and U2, it all works. I make up the rules here. I don't care.
There you go. You tell him, friend. You're calling an audible, and it's two of my songs. So
yeah, I love it. Honestly, this is one that really resonated with me because when I first heard, I put the CD and I'm listening to the album. I always scroll through the track titles, but I don't really hyper focus because track titles, there are a lot of songs that could be called whatever the name of the song is. So all of a sudden I hear the opening and I hear the vocals hit and I say, ooh, it's U2. And the thing that really impressed me about this cover is it was dangerous because you take a song that is ingrained in 3 decades of people's DNA. It was ingrained in the 80s from U2. And then in the 90s, my wife's favorite show ever is Friends, and the scene where Rachel and Ross are, and that song is playing in the background, it had a resurgence. And then U2, one of the biggest bands on the planet, it's seen generations of love for this song. To take chances with a cover is exciting and dangerous, but it's risky because the purists might turn sour on it.
Oh, they'll turn coat and attack you.
Yeah.
Click.
And what you did to this song was you brought it to a completely different place. And it was an absolutely gorgeous and stunning rendition of it. And it kind of builds up to the ending where it gets heavier. But the fact that the beginning was so ethereal in the opening and tribal almost with the hitting drums, and it was very quiet and soft. I love it. So yeah, I'm following up Eva Under Fire with Eva Under Fire, and you could call me out in the show notes. I understand, but you know what? She's our guest tonight, and I do love this version, and damn it, I'm doing what I want.
There you go. See, you're taking risks. I'm taking risks. You're like, hey, I'm having back-to-back Eva Under Fire songs. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to cover the biggest band in the world. I get it. We just do what we want out here, right? It's rock and roll.
So I have to ask, were you nervous rearranging a song that everybody knows so well? Was it something where you were like, this is risky?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we knew what we were up against when we thought, okay, cover songs for us are go big or go home, right? Well, as soon as we made that rule, we knew what we were up against, right? So then it just became a game of how far can we push this? Right? We're like, oh, U2, biggest band on the planet. No problem. Right? It's like, sure, it's a little intimidating, of course, but I think any of our covers that we do typically are because of the nature of the way that we approach cover songs, right? I mean, you should have seen us when we were doing covers, like we did cover set during the pandemic because our friend that books for us in this local area, she's actually the owner of the new venue that we're opening up for in April 1st. And she there was nothing else going on. It was during the pandemic. It was like a food truck outside by the Detroit River. And she was like, will you guys come and play cover? And we're like, sure. She was like, I need like 3 hours. And I was like, holy crap. Okay.
What?
So we learned, dude, we played Zeppelin. We played Metallica. We just ran through the gamut. We played Biggie Smalls. Like we did so many crazy.
Is there video of this? Because I want to see this now.
I mean, if you go into our Facebook archives, I'm pretty sure they would have video footage of this. It was all just crazy acoustic jams, but like some of the covers that we found would really translate super well live we kept him around. We worked it out. And I think it really is helpful to kind of, gain a little bit of perspective on, you know what, we want to do this go big or go home thing. This is a good testing ground. So.
Absolutely love it. Well, Eva, we're back to you now after the back-to-back Eva covers.
Right.
What are you going to follow it up with? Go big or go home on side B.
Right. Oh, there were so many cool ones. All right. So when we're talking about iconic songs, right? Iconic covers, right? Marilyn Manson covered Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics.
Yeah.
And these are the covers that break people's careers, right? Like I'm pretty sure that is where Manson just hit, like skyrocketed to stardom, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And for all of the things that, say or not say about Marilyn Manson's music and his originals and like how provocative and how like crazy as shock rock he was and is, but that was what a creepy, haunting version.
Absolutely love it. Obviously, Annie Lennox is a treasure on vocals, and she's such an inspirational female vocalist through all the stuff she did with the Eurythmics, through even some of the newer stuff. Her cover of I Put a Spell on You that came out a couple of years ago just makes the hair on my arm stand up. It's just so wonderful and so perfect. Marilyn Manson's was so dark, and it truly introduced the, dare I use the word, character of Marilyn Manson, but it really introduced the persona of Marilyn Manson. And like I say all the time on my shows, we're here to talk about music. I'm not going to get into his personal life and any of the stuff happening. We're talking about the songs tonight. And his cover of Sweet Dreams was a complete reimagining, and it was taking a song that everybody knew and flipping it on its side. So I love it, and I know what I'm going to follow it up with.
Oh, boy.
And our friends at The Itch are going to stand up and celebrate, because this is another band that has been on their show several times, and I know they are big fans of. I'm going to go with a cover of Phil Collins, and I'm going to go back to 2004, and I'm going to go with Nonpoint's cover of In the Air Tonight from the Recoil album. Nonpoint is one of the most underrated bands from that new metal genre, and taking a song like In the Air Tonight, which is so iconic, everybody knows that drum part. Nonpoint takes this iconic drum beat and turns it into a tribal opening, where the whole opening of the song, which is normally very quiet in the Phil Collins version, is tribal, and it's still slow, and you're still kind of like building, but it has a more rock edge to it and a more rock flavor. And when they kick into that iconic do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, it kicks in heavy, and it still brings the original's heft. So to take on a challenge like that, Nonpoint knocked it out of the park, and I'm going with In the Air Tonight, following up Sweet Dreams.
Wow, what a cool reference. We got a chance to play with Nonpoint on Shiprock. It was sick. They're amazing live. So I love that reference. I think I'm going to go with Disturbed, because they have a lot of really iconic covers, but I'm going to go with your recommended, the Simon and Garfunkel Sound of Silence. It's such a great cover. David Draymond's voice is another one that's just iconic.
Disturbed, you could do almost a whole list of Disturbed covers, and the Sound of Silence is one. It's got 7 kajillion billion views. I mean, my parents called me up and they're like, "Hey, have you heard of a band called Disturbed?" And I'm like, "Oh God, you heard the Sound of Silence cover, didn't you?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is unbelievable." Believe it or not, I had Disturbed on my list, but I didn't have that one because I wanted to have something kind of waiting in the wings. I had their cover of Land of Confusion by Genesis, because that one pummels, and it's so heavy.
Also a great cover.
I mean, they rock their covers. So I love that pick, but following it up, you just went like big. So
I mean, Simon and Garfunkel.
But it's okay. So I'm gonna go with your friend Lizzie Hale here, because we haven't talked about her in this list, and this is really tough because I want to stick with the big names that we're covering. So I am going to go with Hailstorm covering, oh God, I'm torn right now. Okay, AC/DC Shoot to Thrill.
Nice.
From the Reanimated 2.0 covers album. I mean, if you're going to do an AC/DC cover song, you have to bring it. And AC/DC has such a distinct vocal delivery, whether it's Bon Scott or Brian Johnson. And Lizzie Hale takes a song, which was, it's on the Back in Black album. Brian Johnson been singing it for the better part of 40 years. It was in Iron Man. Everybody know. And she just slays it. And that's not an easy song to do, but she brings her own delivery to it where you're like, wow, this is truly an AC/DC cover, but it's also truly a Hailstorm song as well. So I'm going to go with Hailstorm, Shoot to Thrill.
Nice. And she's another one. You could like take your pick of covers.
I seriously just could have picked one at random, honestly.
Yeah, right. I was like, which one is we going to pick? All right. So this one that I'm going to pick is a little bit of a flippity floppity because I don't know which artist is bigger, but I'm going to go with Johnny Cash covering Nine Inch Nails.
Ooh.
Because I don't think a lot of people don't know still that it was news to me even just a few years ago that was actually not his song.
Oh my God. The original, I mean, the Downward Spiral was my senior year in high school. So when I first heard Johnny Cash, I'm aging myself out with that one, but when I first heard Johnny Cash, and I mean, those last albums, they were certainly country because Johnny Cash was country, but make no mistake, when Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers are your backing band for the American albums, they were rock too. And I'll be honest, Johnny Cash's Hurt is, I'm just going to hot take, it's a better rock song than Nine Inch Nails' Hurt.
Wow. I mean, I'll have to give that to you, but that's what I mean. Like, we're talking about covering icons. Like Johnny Cash is an icon in his own right, but for him to cover Trent Reznor's song, I mean, you would hear the rock version of it from Nine Inch Nails, and you would think that would have been the cover because Johnny Cash is so famous. Like, why wouldn't it have been the other way around?
And look, just the whole story behind it, like, oh my God, the video, like I'm getting, my hair on my arm is standing up just thinking about it. It's such a powerful, beautiful send off to such a legendary career. So that's impossible to top. I have one song left and you have one song left. So I'm torn right now. I have two songs that I want to plug in. I don't know which one to go with. All right, I'm going to go with a cover of one of the biggest bands in the world. And it's a cover by a group that you have toured with. And I'm sure you have seen this song performed on that tour with this band. But I am going to go with the Warnings cover of Enter Sandman by Metallica, featuring Alessia Cara from the 2021 Metallica Blacklist compilation. Here is a song that in no way, shape, or form does anybody usually want to attempt to cover, because it is one of the most iconic rock songs of all time. You think about it in sports references. You have the Sandman for the New York Yankees coming out to it. I mean, it is a stadium anthem. And here is this band who gets a pop singer and joins this Metallica compilation and covers their biggest hit song ever. Right. And they completely change the vibe of the song. And I love it so much because everybody knows when you hear the opening guitar, what's going to happen. And I thought it's exact. I figured, oh, here we go with a cover of Enter Sandman. And when the drums came in and they were in a different timing, I said, you have my attention. And then when I heard the singer, my daughter immediately said, wait a minute, that's a pop singer. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is happening here? And then the whole song is basically flipped on its ear until the ending where they kick back into the original for the close. It's such a brilliant reimagining. I'm so glad I found a place to put it on this list. So I'm going to go with the Warnings Enter Sandman. They've done a ton of great covers, and I know you shared the stage with them with Hailstorm and the Pretty Reckless last year. I don't know if this one was on the set list or not, but I'd be curious just what your thoughts are of the Warning as a whole.
Yeah, no, they're great girls, and they really go up there and kill it live. They have so much fun. You can just see it on their face, how much fun they have, right? But I loved seeing them in the space where I found them at and this particular run, because it was more of them focusing on their own release, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the single at that time was Choke.
Choke. Love that
Um,
song. Oh
so
my God. So good.
yeah, so I mean, I felt like they came into their own, right? They'd grown up as kids covering Metallica, that they're three Mexican sisters that are just they've always grown up playing music together and they got their start very early. But this was a space where I really felt like I could see that this was the warning, you know?
Yep.
And it was really cool to see. And they're so sweet too. They're just
The
big
Warning
sweethearts.
is one of those bands. I'm going to drop maybe an obscure band here. If you've heard of them, I'll be like, wow, that's amazing. But a band I really enjoyed a lot in the 90s was a group called Drain STH. And they're not from the US, but they were a heavy female front, all female band that had this almost Alice in Chains kind of vibe to it. And they were really cool and really eclectic. And The Warning gives me that vibe. When I first heard Choke, I'm like, oh my God, this is Drain STH through three younger ladies, and I absolutely love it. So for anyone out there that doesn't know either The Warning or Drain STH, here's some musical rabbit holes for you to go down tonight, along with obviously Eva Under Fire. But Eva, you now have the hardest job of them all. We're closing out the entire night, and you need to find a song that follows up Disturbs the Sound of Silence, Hailstorm Shoot to Thrill, Johnny Cash is Hurt, and The Warnings Enter Sandman.
You organized this. You put me on the spot.
On the spot.
The quintessential last spot.
Yes.
All right, let's see. I got it.
Okay.
I got it. I have always loved this cover. And I mean, it's not a band that we've worked with just yet, but it's one of the biggest bands on our roster. Five Finger Death Punch covering Blue on Black.
Nice.
Yes. Such a great, just the way that and maybe this is because I'm a vocalist. I don't know, because every single cover I've always mentioned is like something about the vocal captures me and makes it convincing and makes it theirs for me. Right. So I guess that's maybe the most important component of me listening to covers. But yeah, it just it so suits his grit.
Oh, definitely. I had Five Finger Death Punch on my list. I had their cover of Bad Company.
Oh, Bad Company would have been a great one too.
Yeah, they're both great covers. But look, any universe where more people are talking about the genius that is Kenny Wayne Shepherd, the original recording, makes me happy, because Kenny Wayne Shepherd is one of the most underrated blues guitarists I've ever seen live. His band is so great. I love that his music has resonated enough where a band the size of Five Finger Death Punch puts it out, and then people go, wow, this is a great Five Finger Death Punch song. And they're like, no, really, it's Kenny Wayne Shepherd. And it introduces Kenny Wayne Shepherd to a whole new audience. So I am completely on board for it. I absolutely love it. And side B is really, it's off the rails. We kick things off with Incubus, Let's Go Crazy. And then we had a 2 for Tuesday double shot of Eva Under Fire with Separate Ways, Worlds Apart, and With or Without You, breaking the rules here on my weekly mixtape. And no, I don't care. Following that up was Marilyn Manson's Sweet Dreams, Non-Points in the Air Tonight, Disturbs the Sound of Silence, Hailstorm Shoot to Thrill, Johnny Cash is Hurt, The Warning featuring Alessia Cara, Enter Sandman, and closing it out, Five Finger Death Punch's Blue on Black. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all of the songs we've discussed through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, Eva, before we hit eject on this mixtape, we got to talk about touring. The band is about to head to Europe with Skillet and Like a Storm for the Day of Destiny tour. Why don't you tell people about that run of shows and what Europe can expect from this run?
Holy cannoli. Can I just tell you, you gave us so much love to our single Blow, right? And it hit top 10 in US radio, but it hit top 3 in German radio. So, and we have, I think, 4 or 5 dates in Germany on this run. So I cannot wait. We've been asked so many times on so many social media platforms, when are you coming to the year? When are you coming to Germany? When are you coming to Europe? And when are you coming to the UK? And now we finally get a chance to really spread our wings and go get on a plane and do it for real. And it's with our friends. I'm so excited. That what a crazy, awesome, just pure blessing. Skillet are the type of humans that you wish you would always meet in like the business world, right?
Mm-hmm,
Where
mm-hmm.
everybody's telling you, oh, the business side of things is so messy, it's so chaotic, don't get so discouraged and blah, blah. You meet people like Skillet, humans that do it like that. They are one of the hardest working bands I've ever met. They are so energetic live, and they are some of the kindest humans you'll ever meet. They take care of their band. And I remember sitting on the like one of the green room couches with their production team, production manager. And he was like, listen, when you guys go to Europe, there's a couple things you gotta, make sure you take note of, like the electrical outlets and whether or not you're running too much power there. And like there's converters. And he's like, so just ask me. So for us to finally get our shot at going to Europe and it's with that guy, we were like, hey, remember all those tips and tricks you gave us? Looks like you get to just walk us through it, pal. He was like, you guys again. We were like, yeah, we get to go there, friends. So we cannot wait. Like a Storm is also just very sweet. Their band's already, I've never met them, but their band's already reaching out on Instagram. Like, hey, your return buddies. Cool. Let us know if you guys need anything. So I can't wait.
Well, I mean,
so
we've been talking about covers all night, and they covered Linkin Park's Crawling. They did a fantastic job of that.
They did.
And then obviously, let's not forget, we talked about 90s hip hop way back at the beginning of this episode. Like a Storm covered Gangster's Paradise and did a killer version of that as well. So
how appropriate for Mixtape.
Exactly.
We're just dropping references all over the place.
Well, then let's bring you back to the U.S. after this tour. You've blown up in Europe. Everyone loves you in Europe. You're coming back to the U.S. this summer. You're playing the Incarnation Festival July 14th through 16th in Mansfield, Ohio. And you're on the bill Friday with bands like Slipknot, Megadeth, Bush, Flyleaf with Lacey Sturm back in the mix, and then many, many others. Besides your set, are there any bands that you're looking forward as a music fan as well?
So many. Brian, I can't even choose. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. My hope is many of them will also be on several other of the festivals so that I can like try to schedule which stages I go to at which events, right? So like, I mean, we're playing Upheaval. We're playing Incarceration, like you said. We're playing Blue Ridge. We're playing Rockfest. We've got Rock for Vets this year, which is awesome. I think this is our most heavy schedule for festivals that we've ever done. So I can't wait. It'll be really cool. But yeah, there's a whole list of people that I got to go see because I haven't. But we got a chance to do a lot of that this past year at Aftershock. And I mean, Evanescence and Youngblood and Bring Me the Horizon and My Chemical Romance. Like, it's wild to me that I get to do this for fun.
I get it. Look, I've been in bands for 30 years, and while we never got to the level that you were, we got to play certain shows opening for Black Label Society and the Misfits and other bands in New Jersey venues like the
cool.
Stone Pony. Even those one day that we were kind of like, we called it our day in the sun, we were still playing Rockstar on stage, but then immediately transitioning into fans as soon as we were done because of the love we had for the other bands on the bill. And I love seeing and talking with other musicians that are still in that moment because it is such a beautiful thing because it really is a full circle. Music is it just unites all of us and it's such a wonderful thing. So now as a podcast host, if I don't ask this question, I'm just not doing my job. So is there any new music in the works that you'd be willing to share? Or is there anything, maybe some big bombshell news that you want to kind of drop to give people something to chew on, new music from Eva Under Fire coming, even though the new album's only a few months in? Is there anything else in the works?
So lucky for you, friend and friends, we did take a long time to release the album we just put out. And so we're chomping at the bit to release more. And our people, our team, they know that. And because this is a cover song podcast, I can tell you that we're just getting started writing. So the new music from us will be a minute, but we may or may not be dropping some more covers to keep you guys satiated until the next Eva Under Fire album.
Absolutely.
I can't tell you when,
awesome.
and I can't tell you what it was, but it will make your covers heart happy.
All right. Well, then once those are out, we're going to have you back so we could talk more cover songs. And Eva, I look forward to catching you guys the next time you swing through New Jersey. I want to thank you first off for the music that you've brought into my and my girls' lives and my family's lives. Thank you for being a positive musical role model to my young, impressionable children that are listening to this music now and paying attention to it, and it's resonating with them. And most importantly, beyond all of that, thank you so much for joining me on my weekly mixtape and crafting, which I think is an absolutely killer mixtape of cover songs. Thank you for being my guest tonight.
There we go. Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you, Brian, for all the kind words. Truly, man, I can't wait to see what you girls think of the next new stuff. Here we go.
Awesome. Awesome. Remember, folks, you can find my weekly mixtape on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And if you want to support the show, please consider becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. That's all for this week. Thanks for listening. Until next time, enjoy the tunes.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.